That's what we did in Boston for sure. I mean, I don't know if you could tell from like watching the game, but we had such a good time and just playing such another different team. Well, for me, it was like kind of different. It was like going back to the that building, which I actually love playing there. So I was just excited to be there. But yeah, we just have so much fun. We love each other, and we're excited to get back after Christmas break, and hopefully we can keep it rolling for the second half.
I was gonna say, yeah, it was very obvious watching the web stream that you, Jiggy, were having maybe more fun than everyone else playing in that building. Do we know who was having more fun back at Harvard? Was it Giguere or Bellamy back at Harvard?
I think it was Bellamy for sure.
It
I mean,
still...
it's for sure. It was probably a big. It was fun to get back. I can't speak for her, but I'm sure she had a lot of fun.
Tell us, can you kind of give us a scouting report on Gabbie and what she's able to bring to this line from that? And we got her on here so she can blush the entire time as you talk about her. But offensively, what she's doing right now, leading the country in points per game. But I think chasing you in assists and maybe Kleiner in goals right now. But what she's able to do and what she brings to the line.
Well, how much time do we have here? No, I'm just kidding.
Much time as you have.
No, I mean, I didn't know. I knew Gabbie from playing against her for 2 years. I played like 4 games against her total. And I just always knew. And I was playing against her, like her line most of the time. And I knew how good she was. And when I first got here and they told me I was going to be on her line, I was like, okay, pretty nervous. I told them how nervous I was to play with them because they're such good players and stuff. And we started playing, and oh my God, she can, even if you talk about her offensive plays, her defense, how she can get the puck out so easily as a winger is like the best thing in the entire world. So how she can get, I don't know how she does it, but she gets the puck out like zigzagging between people. And then in the offensive zone, I mean, we just have so much fun. She's so smart and talented that it's so easy to play with her. And I know that when she's in the slot too, you just want to give her the puck because she's got such an amazing shot that you just want her to have the puck up there. So overall, like that's just a little bit, but that's there's so many things that people don't see in practices and stuff like that that we get to see every day. So I'm pretty grateful to play with her.
Off the ice, her leading the, being involved with Sophie's squad and such, and bringing, mental health for athletes, a subject to, the forefront here. What kind of impact has that had on the team?
I think that has a lot of impact. She always talks so much about it. And it was actually a big thing for me coming from another place before that never really got talked about. Mental health was not a thing that was talked about. And I think everyone struggles with it, that you talk about it or not, everyone has some issues. So when I first got here and she talked so highly about how it was an open space, how you could reach out to these people and stuff. And just within the team was such a big impact for me personally. And seeing her do that with Sophie's squad is just amazing to me. And I'm just here to support that. And I'm really, really proud of her. So
how much does that help the younger players, you feel?
Well, I'm an old one and it helps me. So I'm assuming that it helps the younger players a lot. So, I mean, we don't talk personally. Like I don't know what they think, but there's no way it doesn't help them. And just knowing who to reach out to and seeing a senior do all this stuff for sure helps them.
Hey, Gabbie, thanks for joining us today. I just wanted to talk to you about, what does it mean to you to be bringing Sophie's squad to UMD and kind of mashing it with the Green Ribbon Project and seeing it all come together this weekend?
Yeah, I'm so excited. And when the coaches, I brought it to their attention, possibly doing a game and how open they were to it. And they were kind of shocked. I even had to ask. They were like, yeah, we're going to do a game. Like, of course we are. So just that support that I have at UMD and at the rink from everyone, from all the staff members to the teammates. And even on the men's side, it's really cool to see the impact it's made and how big it's gotten. So bringing it to the college level, I'm super excited to see what the event has to offer. I mean, I've seen it and been to all of the events we've had so far at the high school level. So I'm super excited to have it brought to AMSOIL Arena, and Bemidji is super on board with it. They're donating stuff for silent auctions, and just to see how it's bringing everyone together and the camaraderie we're getting from it is super fun to see. And being on board with it and talking to the other committee members, we're all super excited. We've had a countdown going for ever since we found out that it's going to happen. And I just can't wait to have it brought to my hometown and where I love and live, the city. So I'm super excited to see what it has.
How meaningful is it for you to be a part of not only, supporting Sophie's memory, but also supporting athletes, youth to the college level with mental illness here?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most important things that I have ever really done, bringing this to light and the attention that it does need. I don't think it's really been talked about in a light that it has now. And maybe in the last 3 to 5 years, it's really gotten to be a big topic. And I think it's super important. And I know Sophie's mom, Amy, I'm pretty close with, and we text back and forth. And she just always says how grateful she is for this and how important it is, and how much she appreciates everything we're doing, and just to keep Sophie's name alive and in remembrance, and for such a great cause. It's super important, and having Sophie's name on it, I just absolutely love having her name all over everything. So I think just the conversations that it's starting is probably one of the biggest things, is just bringing awareness to everything that Sophie's squad has brought to light is super important for younger kids. And like Jake said, even older kids. It's not a lot of people want to talk about it, but I think it's something that should be talked about. It's more common than people think.
Gabbie, what does it say kind of about the program, even UMD as a whole, that they're able to kind of help out with this cause?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, like I said, when the coaches were so on board with having an event, and the conversations that I've had with all of the coaching staff and staff members and the university, talking with Brian Nystrom, and just getting the whole thing rolling, and the support that everyone has been bringing towards me throughout the process of it is so important. And I think it just speaks to how great of a culture that we do have up here at UMD, and not even at the rink, but it goes back to the bigger staff people that we have up at campus too, just all the camaraderie and what people do to support us as athletes, and the important things to us become important to them. And I think just seeing that it makes me feel super lucky and very grateful that I'm lucky enough to have that support in my life and in college.
We talked about how, not a lot of people like to talk about this. With the most recent Olympics, kind of having it be more of a conversation people are willing to have, does that kind of give you some hope, seeing the conversations had on an international level?
Yeah, I think just anywhere that the conversation can be started is important, and just I think making people feel that they can talk about it and that they're not alone, I think just brings light to situations for people that might be sitting at home thinking they're all alone, or that they're crazy for having these kind of feelings, or that they're just sitting all alone in the room. But when other people start to talk about it, they can see that they're not alone, and they have the support that they might not think that they have. And I think that is super important, whether it starts with a small conversation, then to the collegiate level, and then international. I think wherever that conversation can be had, it helps a lot more people than people want to think. But I think at the international level, it can have a super big impact. Seeing people on a big stage like that talk about it is super important. I mean, like I said, if you're at the Olympics, you wouldn't think that any of them are struggling. You would think, wow, they're living out their most amazing dreams that everyone dreams about. Shouldn't they be happy? And I mean, like most of the time that might not be the case. So just seeing that come to light is super cool and important.
I don't know if anyone else wanted to ask anything if we're transitioning to this weekend, but I'll just ask. It seems like Bemidji, every single time that you guys play them, you had those crazy games that like couple overtime game a couple of years ago. What is it about this squad specifically that consistently gives you guys such really, really good competitive games?
Yeah, I think they always look at us as a rivalry game when they come to play us or when we go to play them. And I think they get super fired up to play with us and play against us as we do for them. And it's always a different game when you play Bemidji. They're a physical team, and that's kind of their MO, and that's what they love to thrive off of. So playing a more physical game and getting used to that is kind of what we have to do when we play against teams like that. So they always throw whatever they can at us, and they always play their hardest when they play against us. And we know that, and we get super excited to play against them. So definitely looking forward to another big series against them and whatever the game brings. It's always super fun.
You guys had a week off. You didn't want, obviously, a week off, but where's the team's mindset right now? You don't want those thoughts to kind of creep in to be like, oh man, not this again. But kind of where are you guys mentally right now?
Yeah, I think we've done a super good job over break and taking responsibility and looking at the positive sides of things and focusing on our next games that we have. And we've had conversations about it. And I think just as a unit, we're just super excited to get back on the ice. I mean, not playing games one weekend is always a bummer because that's where we are our happiest and we love playing games. It's what we're here to do. So just focusing on our next series that we have is kind of our mindset and just being excited to get back on the ice. And Coach has talked about it a little bit, but just taking every opportunity that you get and not taking it for granted because you never know with COVID whether you're going to play or not. So if you do get the chance, we're going to play our hearts out because we never know if we're going to get to play this weekend or that weekend. So just being grateful and taking every opportunity we can is kind of what we're focusing on.
And I know we talked about Giguere a little bit last week, but her ability, it seems like, to seamlessly transition into it's from day one. She was kind of making this play, the plays and everything was just kind of working with you guys. Did you kind of see that as you guys were, working on the off season? Did it kind of just fit like a glove?
Yeah, I mean, since the day she came in, I think Kleiner and I were super excited to play with her when the coaches told us we were going to get to play with her. And like she said, she was excited to play with us, a little nervous. I think Kleiner and I were too. But the second she came in, we had so much fun just getting to know each other on the ice and off the ice. And I think the love that we have for each other and as a team as a whole, we all love each other like sisters and we're a big family. So I think the camaraderie that we have helped a lot with that transition for her. And just coming in on a line every practice, we have so much fun and we just talk on the bench all the time. And I think that kind of helped with that transition for both Kleiner and I to her and her to us. So I think just the communication that we had from both ends is kind of what made that fit so well.
Anything else for Gabbie? No, good. You're super, Gabbie, as always. Thank you for hopping on.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Wow. I don't even know what I can add to this, Kelly. Those two are just so good.
You have good kids on your team, Coach.
Yeah. Wow. Fortunate.
Hey, Maura, the Sophie squad game, Zach and Gabbie and I were talking about it yesterday on the podcast, like mental, Gabbie Jiggy mentioning there, like it wasn't something previously or in a career that's talked about a lot. Gabbie, Zach and I were talking about, for all three of us growing up, mental health wasn't something that was discussed in sports and that. For you, how have you seen the conversation change and maybe as a coach, how much has it helped you, whether it's in personal life or as a coach, this willingness to talk more about mental health?
Yeah, it's a huge topic. And There are so many things to comment on from the conversations that you had, but, it's no surprise that every Olympic team, Alicia, to your point, every Olympic team has mental skills coaches, sports psychologists, people that are working extremely closely with those athletes, like closer than coaches. So there's no surprise there. I think they're extremely important to the success of those Olympians. I think at the college level, I'd say in the past decade, the topic has come up quite a bit. And as a coach to player, a lot of it is private conversations. So those one-on-one sort of people opening up, you're trying to help them and direct them in the right way to the resources that they need, or maybe you are the resource that they need. It depends on the situation. But what I love about Gabbie and what she's doing with Sophie squad, green bandana, but even before that, in her personal experience, is talking about it openly in front of the team. In our opening meeting, she was the one that mentioned, we're talking about resources. Hey, if you need anything with equipment, go see this person. If you need anything with this, go see this person. And they're getting bombarded with information. And she was the one that spoke up. Hey, mental health resources are here on campus. Here's how you go about reaching out to them. And I was like, thank God, that's such an important topic. And now I'll be sure every year to include that in my list, but it was her who did that. And like Jig said, when you have a player like Gabbie, an older, senior, who's doing everything on the ice and, well-known and all of that, really supporting mental health awareness and resources and talking about it, it just becomes a much more open, comfortable environment in our room. So she is, single-handedly changing our culture in a positive way.
Maura, the status of the games this weekend, are we good to go? Is there still some uncertainty? Or are we just living in a day-to-day world? How would you describe the status of this weekend's games?
Hey, as far as I know, we're off and running. But the phone can ring at any minute. So from what I know on our end, we are good to go.
Are you guys still have to abide by a 10-day quarantine, or is it changed to 5?
MDH is at a 10, I believe.
MDH is still 10?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where you guys are at still.
Yeah.
Okay. How many are you going to have a full roster, available for Friday and Saturday's games, or is that something that's also,
potentially? That's really truly day by day. Yeah.
For a coach and for players, maybe they're used to this from last year. I don't know, but how tough is that to navigate the unknown of who could and who could not be in the lineup?
Yeah, it's challenging, but like you said, we did it last year, and for the most part, they remember those feelings. It was a little jarring to be, on a pause last week, considering we haven't dealt with any COVID issues up until, January. So it felt like we were, in a good spot, and then it hit abruptly. But, it's all part of trying to play college sports during a pandemic. I'd say we're fortunate to have the opportunity to play any games, and safety and wellness for our players is important, but the community as well. So I think we take everything with a grain of salt over here.
When were you guys able to get back on ice, and what does practice look like this week?
We started up yesterday. So it's looked like a 70-minute sort of flow practice where we were just getting the legs going, hands going, and we look pretty good. And then introducing some of the systems again that they're very familiar with. So it was a good day. We'll have 3 full practices before we play. So, second semester, that's standard for our practice window in a given week. We try to give them a rest day, or at least a skills day on one of the days during the weeks in the second semester, as their, bodies tend to need a little more time for recovery. Our travel as well is all over the map. It feels like this year. So a lot of, late returns. If we travel on Sunday, then Mondays are off. So it's just, it's kind of, with COVID, without, the schedule is a little bit up and down. So, yeah, we feel good about it. 3 days of practice and then games.
You mentioned, you go from preparing for St. Cloud to that getting called off to now Bemidji. Does it help? You're coming off this COVID break and maybe getting a later or a different start to practice than normal. Does it help that you're seeing an opponent that you've already played this year and that you're familiar with?
Yeah, it actually doesn't feel like it was all that long ago. I think mid-November, end of November that we were there. And, that's the beauty of our league. I guess we have so few teams that we play. We know them pretty well. So having a conference matchup replace the one that we thought we were having last week, it was okay. Yeah, we're ready. We know them. They know us. No secrets here.
When you're seeing a team like this for the second time around in conference play, like you've already experienced this with the Gophers, is there less prep time? How much change is there from maybe like that first time you prepared for seeing this opponent?
I think, from Friday to Saturday games, we do a lot of, I'd say, honing in on specific areas that we want to get better at. I'm sure they do as well. So what we worked on from Friday to Saturday's game at Bemidji, that's kind of, what we take into this week's prep, as well as just being ourselves and making sure we're playing good Bulldog hockey. We're going to focus on some details, but it's really important for us to play well and play to our abilities and think a little bit more about ourselves, especially being off for a couple of weeks.
You mentioned last week, to climb that pairwise and climb the WCHA standings and kind of cement your spots for the postseason. You got to rack up wins here. So what needs to happen for you guys to get 2 more wins against a Bemidji team you've already beaten twice? Yeah,
I mean, the past is the past, really. That was great that we got those wins. Really hard to get those wins at Bemidji, but now it's a new deal. We're here, we're home. We like to be home. That's great, but we have to be ready to go for each game. Take it one at a time, and like I said, make sure we're playing our game, playing good hockey, playing fast, and doing the things that we rely on, regardless of opponent, to be successful. So I think we have to focus on one game at a time. Like you mentioned, see what the lineup looks like, make sure we're managing people properly, and then, going after it again on Saturday. It's really tough to beat the same team twice in a weekend, let alone 4 times in a year, especially a Bemidji team. So we know it's going to be a tall task, but we're excited to play. I'd say, unfortunately for Bemidji, again, we're coming off a break. I think we were off for 3 weeks the last time we played these guys, and we tend to be pretty excited to play when we are off on a break. So I'm hoping we'll have good energy coming into the weekend.
Do you guys have dates yet for the rescheduled St. Cloud series?
Close. We're close. Yeah.
Close. Okay. Yeah. I'm guessing you probably got tipped off a little bit before Canada's announcement yesterday, but when you saw that little girl skate up and say Ashton's name, what was the feeling like?
Deloraine, Manitoba. That kid, I love the way, Hockey Canada announced it. Lou was the one that sent it to me and just said, you got to see this announcement. It's amazing. And so well done. I love the way they tied in the future, the little girls with the present. And it feels like such a community in Canada. Really well done. And so excited for Ashton. I mean, what a remarkable story. First of all, just switching to D a couple of years ago and making that team and, making an Olympic roster on the US and Canada teams is really, really hard to do, especially as a young defenseman like her. So really proud of her, really excited for her and her family and everybody in Manitoba. I think she's the first Olympian from Deloraine, Manitoba, which is pretty cool. So big moment for us in our program too.
How big of an accomplishment is that? Like Jocelyn Larocque didn't make the Olympics, her first time centralized as a college student. I think back to Bridget Laquette also, was centralized while at UMD and she gets cut. For Ashton at 22, only her 3rd full season as a defenseman to make that team. Just how big of an accomplishment is this for her?
Massive. I think it speaks to her character. People want to have her around. we miss her. We miss her this year. Our kids miss her. She was back here visiting a few months ago, I would say. And we just love having her around. And I think when coaches are making decisions on some of those last cuts, the character and the connection that she probably has with her teammates, those things probably became more important than, hey, what is Ashton going to do on the ice in, this sort of situation? So a massive accomplishment, and speaks volumes to her as a person.
You don't happen to know when Sweden's going to put out their roster, do you?
January 19th.
January 19th? Okay.
Yep. Little late.
Maura, talking a little bit about Elizabeth Jager, did you have any feeling that she would transition so seamlessly into that top line? We probably should have been talking now about, they're kind of hitting their stride, but we've been talking about it for months now.
Yeah. I mean, right when they got together at practice, it was magic, I would say. Obviously they have to get familiar with styles and speed and differences there, and communication as they talked about, but the way that they all play, the individual games that they bring together, and the way that they complement each other. It's been awesome. When somebody like Giguere appears in the transfer portal and then you actually get her to come here, you're so excited. I mean, that caliber player is once in a lifetime. And so, we had high hopes, of course, and knew right where we wanted to slot her in the lineup. But yeah, you don't know until you put it together and then you see it. And it didn't take long. She's got the amazing vision that, she can make plays with anybody. When she's out there, I think she's set Clara up for a couple of goals at St. Thomas just off of line changes or different things. She has the vision to complement everybody on our roster. So when you put her with such a prolific goal scorer like Gabbie, along with the speed and finishing ability of Kleiner, it's a good thing. So it's awesome. It's fun to watch. And like I say to you guys all the time, it's not just the finishing. Jig talked about Gabbie's defensive play. It's the 200-foot game, and it's the way they carry themselves around here and the way they go about their craft. That's really important to me as a coach. For your top line, who's going to play a lot of minutes, who's going to be on your power play, PK, you want them to do things the right way. And they certainly do, which makes us really proud.
And as a coach, I mean, you want your all lines to be clicking on all cylinders, but to have such a complete first line that is on the ice the most, how reassuring is that? Just knowing whenever they hit the ice, they're probably going to get a point.
Yeah, they're lethal when they're out there. They put a ton of pressure on our opponents. So whether they score or not, when they're out there, usually creates havoc for opponents, which helps our next line out there take advantage. And they're huge for our momentum. It happens at practice too, when the first line goes in a rep and does a nice job, gets a good look at net. Hey, then the second line goes, and it almost seems like everybody feeds off of them. So it's really nice as a coach to have such a dynamic line that you can count on like them. Love the Patriots sweatshirt there.
Oh yeah, they don't understand. It's playoff week. They don't.
Hell yeah.
More are we focusing? I mean, we've been focusing on the positives, but I guess now that the second half is underway, I mean, there's a million things that you could work on and stuff. But what would you say is kind of the one big thing that you'll need to work on to continue this upward trajectory as you're going through the second half of the season?
So I have a boring answer and then an answer that you probably want. One thing we've been talking about all second semester is our habits. So that's the boring one. Practice habits, championship type habits, the way you go about things, the way, you take a shot in practice. We want you stopping at the net, tracking that puck, burying rebounds. We want them communicating really effectively at practice, calling for pucks, talking to each other, passing the puck hard, different things, back checking hard. Those sorts of practice habits are really important to us as a team, because those become championship habits, and we want them to become things that they don't even have to think about. So that's the boring answer. The more exciting answer for you would be special teams. I think, it's been somewhat up and down. Power play has been good at times, quiet at other times. PK has been good at times, not good at other times. So a little more consistency with both special teams. Love to see when our PK does their job and then our power play does their job. Usually we're winning those games. So I think special teams down the line here will be big for us.
And then you mentioned championship habits. So with second semester of school coming back, kids are going to be back in school. How important is it to have those championship habits, just being vigilant off the ice and in the facility as well, just keeping your distance and all that stuff coming with the pandemic?
Huge. Vigilant in terms of COVID with masking and distancing and limiting your exposure to people that you don't know. But we talk a lot as well about our routines. Classes start midweek, which is weird. So, creating your routines. What does the rest of the week look like for you? Have you grocery shopped? Making sure you have things dialed in so that when it comes to the weekend, you can focus, 100% on the games and not be thinking about schoolwork or other things. That's really big to us. Those habits are not just here. More importantly, almost, are the habits away from the rink.
Hey, Maura, just saw an email. Your associate head coach just won an award from AHCA for assistant. They need a name for Assistant Women's Coach Award. That's it. That's the name of the award.
National Assistant Coach of the Year Award.
Okay, it doesn't have a fun name like some of these other ones. It's only been around since 2011.
We're waiting to name it after somebody. We got to give it some time. It's a young award still, like many women's hockey awards. Goalie of the Year, it's like we don't have one yet. Yeah,
need to find someone to name those after.
Exactly.
Lou, how big of an honor is this for her? And I know you've glowed about her over the years. She's been with you from the start here since coming to UMD. How cool of an honor is this for her?
It's awesome. It's awesome. Well deserved. I think she's like a bit of an unsung hero around here and even across the country. She does so much for us. Just thinking about Ashton making that Olympic team. I know Lou takes special pride in that because Lou's the defensive coach. Lou's the one that got on the ice with Ashton last spring and last summer to do skill work with her and make sure she was doing what she needed and helping her out whenever she needs to. So special. I'm sure that's special for her. You think Maddie Rooney, Lou, goalie coach. There's been a lot of positives coming out of our program that I would certainly attribute to Lou's coaching and relationships with our players. I think she's one of the best in the country. I think we're fortunate to have her here. And I told the players she loves our players just like their parents do. And that's unique, I would say. And you can tell by the amount of work she puts in and the passion that she has for being a Bulldog and having success in this program. Tons of pride in the Bellamy family for UMD and what we're doing here.
And she played a major role in helping with getting the women's tournament expanded as well, thanks to her love of numbers. Thank
goodness. I have some ideas and then she puts them into action, especially with that stuff. Yeah, she does a nice job of listening to a bunch of coaches and then simplifying things and backing it up with stats and data. Yeah, no, it's a really, really big honor for her. And I'm just so proud of her and feel very fortunate to have her on our staff.
Do you have a favorite Laura Bellamy fun fact? Players always talk about the facts. They never can seem to remember the facts she gives to them, but do you, over all these years, have a favorite fact she's thrown out?
Oh, man. It's more like, did you know we've played Bemidji like 16 times in the last 3-4 years? And in those 16 games, we've gotten 7, it's kind of, it's pointed. And I actually, I'm not a huge numbers person. So that's why we work well together. You need one on your staff. And I'm always learning things. And the stats are not just like random silly ones. They're They're actually really good. Kelly, I'm sure you guys text back and forth about upcoming record breaking things, and she's dialed into that stuff.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that sometimes get random texts about a stat or correcting a stat. If I get a stat wrong, I know I'll hear about it.
Every time.
You need somebody. You need that person around. Keeps us all honest.